Hello everyone, Ken T. Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers. We are, continuing on with our build and repair system Shipyard. So I've done, I don't want to say quite a bit, but I've done some stuff off screen. I'll go ahead and show you some of it. So I had toyed with the idea of adding M-Master's automatic LCDs 2 script, and I did that. So I like, whenever I design and build things, I design and build them around, hey, I think this would work well. So I design it in such a way that I would be comfortable and happy to use it. So the Shipyard, I love Shipyards, but I like status displays. I like being able to see stuff. So let me go into a little bit about what I've done here off screen. So I don't remember if I did this last video or not. So under here, this is a dual layer because I wanted some protection around. So dual layer on the landing pad underneath the habitat here. So this is the conveyor going out to this connector, and likewise this conveyor out here to that connector. The center here is the conveyor out to the connector on the center pad, and then this is the conveyor going to the medical bay. Now what you see is these two sections here, this one here, and then this one here. There are actually timers and programmer blocks under that. There's two each. So there are, 4 complete sets. One of them is in use by M-Master's LCD script. So what that really means, this whole build is going to go up on the workshop when I'm done. And the reason most everything I'm putting up on the workshop is as close to vanilla as it can possibly be. So there are really 3 exceptions for this particular build, and one of them is, after all, it is the build and repair system. So you have to have that mod for this to work. I mean, it will work without it, but you'll have lots and lots of holes throughout this framing. It'll still remain together, it won't fall apart or anything, but because those are not vanilla, then obviously you're going to have to subscribe to use this thing. The other thing is the scaffolding mod, which is all this framing that you see here. Why do I use this? Because it's a finished, unfinished block. Okay, so there's lots of reasons to use unfinished blocks in builds. I think a lot of the really good builders out there use that pretty consistently and very effectively. It looks really neat. So the problem is with the build and repair system, with the Nanite Control Factory, whichever of those 2 mods you use, it will take an unfinished block and say, oh, this is an unfinished block, and finish it for you. And that's not what you wanted. It was like, oh, damn it, this completely screws up everything that I tried to do here. So I use this mod because it is a finished, unfinished block. It's using I believe it's the first stage build state, and then just uses that as the finished model done. And so good stuff. I use them a lot. There's another mod out there that I believe is called Unfinished Blocks, and I haven't really played with that. But it's a lot of the other blocks, like you'll have containers that are unfinished and all those sorts of things. So a lot of the vanilla blocks, which are in that mod, that are unfinished but finished. So same kind of a thing. All right. So well, let's show you where those are. Because I know a lot of people who like downloading stuff and changing things and just have a good time with other stuff, the content that's out there on the workshop. So in here, system computers, is where all that stuff is. So I've got the entire LCD system is in here, as well as the 3 spare sets. Let me go ahead and turn that on so you can see it. So here we go, all the LCDs that you see, and then at the very bottom we have the 3 programming blocks that are spares and the 3 timer blocks to go with those that are spares. So that's what's under that armor, or rather those catwalk plates. So you've got 3 spares that you can use for each one, and knock yourself out. So I know a lot of people like to use TIM. This may actually be the ideal situation to use TIM if you use that particular script. I've seen, I've watched a lot of my most favorite space engineers, YouTubers that use that with the burdens that go with it, shall I say. Obviously, it is a fantastic script, and I'm long since been expelled from the Programmers Guild, so don't do programming anymore. But obviously, a fantastic piece of scripting, but it has its little quirks that you have to learn how to get around. There is a there is a timer and programmer block available to you if you want to use it. It's already built in. All right, so I was talking about MMaster's script here. Here's the basic gist of it. We have the ingots display that you can see. We really have very little. We have some iron and a whole boatload of uranium. We have the component summary. So we have a little bit of most everything. We're missing explosives. We're missing thruster components. I have programmed this arbitrarily at 500K being my base, just like I've programmed this with 100K. Depends on what you want. This is a power summary, and then a system status. And I chose to put the refineries in there just so you could see what the refineries are doing. The problem with the assemblers is there's so many of them that this could totally blur off. I mean, it would scroll, but I think it would be a little less useful than the refineries. Connectors. So these are all the connectors currently present. So there's the 3 on the landing pad, and then there's the ends. There's 4 on the ends. And I'll probably end up having to change that just a little bit. Alright, so what do we have here? This is kind of zooming out a little so you can see what the shipyard looks like. One of the other things I did off screen here was put in a solar array. Now, why did I do that? Well, we're not hurting for power, clearly, but I've got a lot of open space up here, and I figured I might as well use it for something. So I did. Causing a few shadows here, clearly, but I tried not to break up the aesthetics too badly. So I only put 2 rows up here. See the shadows even. Alright, so what did I plan for this particular session? I like this thing called a pull-in conveyor system. I find it to be very practical. It makes moving stuff around a little easier. Are there problems with it? Yes. Because if you have, for example, like in my little miner, I like to have some ice storage, and I like to have uranium storage. The problem is a pull-in system. If it's sitting in a cargo container, it's going to pull it in. So you basically end up without, you just have no storage. It's going to yank it all in. On the other side of that is if you have a big miner or a big transport type ship, a pull-in system kind of, it saves you having to to go through all your different cargo containers and push stuff in. So I kind of like the pull-in system, so that's why I want to install a pull-in system on this particular station. So my idea was I would actually add it right next to this one, and then we would figure out kind of how to make this work. So I'm gonna turn on mirroring because I think using mirroring I can build it once. Let me use the darker red. I can build it once and then not really have to worry about things after that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the initial one here. Oh, sorry. Let me turn on mirroring, as I said. So I'm mirroring end to end and side to side. Okay, I'm not mirroring up and down because I don't need these things up there. So we'll put that in. Then we'll go back to 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to put the connectors on. And then, so it was a little bit arbitrary. So this is end 1A. So I'm gonna change things up a little bit here. All right, let me turn off this. I should still have my connectors. No, I don't. Connectors. So let's turn that back on so we can see all of them. I'm gonna change this to 1A supply. And I'm also going to change the colors, and the reason I'm going to change the colors is I want this to be consistent with the rest of my builds. So I always color the main supply system as green, so that dark green, and then I color the pull-in system red. So what I want to do is change all of these, and I want to be consistent. My 1A across the board. So in other words, this connector is also going to be 1A, and this is pull-in. Alright, let me go ahead and change to me so I am not fighting with that. Alright, so we have supply and we have pull-in. Because I don't know which one is what. Okay, so this one is going to get renamed. This should be 1B. And it's going to be retitled as supply. And then slide over to this one. And this is going to be also 1B, but pull in. Screaming to the other end here, and this should be a 2B. And 2B, and we'll call this a supply 2B, and this will be a 2B pull-in, 2B pull-in. And if I'm being intelligent, I can look down here and see connector 10 is the only one left, which should be a 2A. And this is a supply. And this one will be 2A pull in. Okay, so those are all the connectors now. So we'll go back up here to connectors, control, select, which will bring up that group. I do a save, which now adds those 4 others into there. We want them on the toolbar. There's the possibility of there being some inventory, and we turn them off on the terminal. So all gone. I'm gonna need to change some things here, and the easiest way to do that is actually kind of globally. So what am I doing? One of the things you'll notice now that I added 4 more couplers onto here, connectors onto here, is this thing is now cycling. So what I want to do is change this just a little bit. It's at 650. Let's try a 0.6 and see. Yeah, 0.6 will work. Nope, it won't. Gotta change a little more. 0.55. Still not gonna be enough, I don't think. Wind supply. Yeah, I guess it will. Alright, so now that I know what that is, I need it 0.5. This is the status panel, as you can see here in the center, status. So I'm looking for everything that is the status panels. And what I'm doing here is this is just going to save me having to go roaming around and fixing them all. So I just go to all the status and change everything here, 0.55, status, 5, status, 0.55, status, 0.55, 3A, 3B should be the one I'm at. Yes, 5.5. Status hab 0.55. All right, so going through a second time. So status 5.5. Scroll up to the next one. Status 5.5. Status 5.5. Status 5.5. Status 5.5. Status 5.5. Status 5.5. And status. Okay, all successfully changed correctly. So we can go back into systems, turn them off on the terminal, and we are approximately back to where we started. So depending on where we look, why did I upgrade all those? Because I don't really care for the scrolling thing. Alright, so that seems to work. Alright, now that we have this, we kind of have to figure out how am I going to loop this basically connection system through. Where am I going to put that? And there are very few places we can do that short of like going underneath. And the trick then is how do we get this from where it's at to where we need it to be. I'm not opposed to running it outside. In fact, I don't really have a problem with running it like right above this. I don't have an issue with that at all. So what the minor changes that I think we could utilize here are well, sort of like blowing a hole through this. I would actually rather come all the way through, so I think we will do that. And then I'll use how do I do this? What I think I will do, a little bit uncouth though it might be, is to run things in like this. And let's go ahead and so what I'm attempting to do is I want a single pull-in sorter that will pull everything into a particular place. Now, do I want to connect these side to side? I didn't originally intend to do that. However, I think I'm there. And the reason I say I think I'm there is because there's really, is there a way around, if I'm going to use one sorter to do this, then I am a bit limited in how I'm going to do it. So what I have now done is effectively brought all four connectors in an independent conveyor system towards the center, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Now I have to figure out how do I get this side to side. The only way I know of to make this happen is to put an independent connection system on, and I think I'm going to do that here. So what I'm going to do is turn off my conveyor system, or sorry, not off the conveyor system, but off the mirroring, and I'm going to connect it onto the bottom of the battery. And this is going to be problematic because you see these things here, so I have to figure out how to go in with these things, so that's going to be interesting, but I've got the majority of the distance across here to cover, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put, we're going to jog this a little bit, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. In fact, we're going to go up right there. Do the same thing on this side. So in this case, we want to, oh, forgot about these. I'm not sure how these got in here, but they were from when I was actually pasting the pieces onto the bottom. So this is the cover plates for, in fact, the programmer blocks. So, oops, forgot about those. Alright, so in this case I can continue on with these guys. Okay, all I'm doing is connecting right now, so there's no magic here. My connection point looks like it's right through here. So what I'm gonna do is actually send this underneath. Keep it low down to the bottom, and then loop up with it. So in this case, we're gonna put this junction here, but we're gonna get everything over here first. So there's my junction, and then back to junction. Okay, so effectively what I have done now is take these two connectors on this side, run them all the way through in an independent conveyor system, and then connect them in, and now I am at this junction right here. So how can I get around this here? And we're going to do that by way of, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn mirroring back on because it's to my advantage right now. Hopefully it will work appropriately. Alright, so that one gets me to there, this one gets me to here. And because there aren't connection points over there, they didn't paste. So I need a 1 and a 1, because this is, I think, right here. Yep. And then back to should line me up here, yes. Okay, and it went green, which means I have connection all the way across. Alright, so now we have this this lateral one going across, which then goes to that one there. Okay, and I am going to put an elbow on here, which will send this to the back. Hold to go through here. And then, so what I need back here is a junction point, which shouldn't be terribly difficult to come up with. Oh, that's going to be a problem. So the problem is I have all of these plates here, which are going to truly be a pain in the butt. So what I can do is take those off. I don't really want to do that. hated to do that, but only way I'm going to get this to come across as intended is this way. Alright, so everything turned green, so now I have my green end to end. I'm going to go back in here. I need to turn off my mirroring, and now I have to see what happened over here, because I don't know. This may have screwed some things up. Apparently not. It's all still there, and it's all still green, which is good. All right, back across. Now we could do effectively the same thing on this side, which I guess I'm not really opposed to doing. Then we change that into a conveyor. This is kind of my structural engineering side here to make sure I have a good solid structure. Alright, and then we change this to a conveyor here. Alright, so now we effectively have a connection point. So here's what I want to do. This is going to look a little bit strange. Alright, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a junction there and a junction there. I'm going to put getting little freezes here, not sure what that is. Okay, those should all go green. Okay, what am I doing here? With all of these already connected together, then what's the point in this contraption on the top? Commonly referred to as a manifold. So, here's the problem with sorters. Sorters, if you dump into a container, is great. The problem is if that container fills up, it won't just shove to the next one. So a manifold comes into place because now all four of these connectors, these containers are connected to the sorter via this manifold. So if it fills one, it just dumps into the next one. Okay, so you kind of get around that inability to push because now all four of these containers are directly connected via conveyor system. So it kind of has the choice of where to go. All right. As kind of ugly as this is, sorter, conveyor sorter. Okay, we are done with those, done with lights, and done with an antenna. So let me grab a conveyor sorter and put it in number 1. Alright, so this is a pull-in. Okay, so this is the direction we want it to go. It's going to attach onto this conveyor, which then is going to attach it into the manifold. What is this guy for? Okay, so this is a sorter, and this is, oops, R. This is my pull-in system. We can go ahead and change that to me. Yes. Let's go ahead and check and verify. Yes, it is to me. Sorter. What do we want? We want to drain all. We absolutely want it to pull everything in. Our filter mode is blacklist. Don't pull active filters blank. Don't pull blank. Don't pull nothing, right? So if I do the double negative there, it's actually a pull everything. Okay, so blacklist, don't pull nothing. So I know that sounds a little confusing, but in this case I'm blacklisting, meaning I don't want to move this, and I'm using a nothing, so it's a basically a pull everything. So total negate there. So pull in everything. The other option is whitelist, and you would have to select everything. Okay, so a whitelist nothing means nothing goes through it. All right, so sorter's a little confusing. Okay, so that is active. It is turned on, and all we need to do right now is connect it, which is this right here. So we need a elbow and an elbow. Whoops, into there. Those should turn green. Yes, they do. Okay, so they will dump into those 4 containers. I think I can get rid of that. I am not mirrored. That means there may be one over here. Yes, there is. Okay, one of the things I'm noticing, not sure if it's, nope, I guess it's there. I was thinking, you know, my catwalks are looking a little strange. Okay, so that was the pull-in system, and again, what its intention is to effectively dump all of the cargo that comes in from the pull-in connectors into this system here. So the last thing I want to do is now color code these last things, because while I use my tiger orange everywhere, there's not a whole lot of black on this station, in fact, so I can't really appropriately call it tiger colored. But what I always do when it comes to my normal station builds is my red, green, blue. In this case, I do not have a supply system for just uranium ingots and ice. Didn't have that. Okay, so turning back on my mirroring, so I have side to side and end to end. That way I color the 1. And I'm really coloring them both. So there we go, green and red, my main supply, which is in and out, non-filtered, and then the pull-in, which literally yanks everything in. So if everything worked out well, we changed all these things to green, as we did. Go to the other end here and do the look-see, and there we go, green, and we can see this turn green as well. Alright, so at this point, The only thing I really need to do is get a boatload of ships and that sort of thing that I can run through this and stockpile a lot of parts and pieces, and at that point I will be able to put this really up on the workshop as it is. So I think it is pretty much complete. It is at least with everything I can think of. So if you remember my basic base tutorial kind of a thing, we have covered all the bases. So we don't have armaments, but it's a space station. Or sorry, it's a shipyard. Was it really meant to be armed? Certainly we could arm it, but I think that would kind of stray outside the parameters just a little bit. This is a station, so it's set as station. It should be a fixed object in space, even though I don't have thrusters and that sort of thing. Armaments, don't have those. In the habitat, it is pressurized, so you do have an oxygen supply there. Let me see, if I were going from left to right on my little list, we have oxygen, hydrogen, gas generation, so check, check, check. Let me see, what was the next thing? Refinery, we have those. We have assemblers, we have those. Storage, ample storage. We do have a sorting mechanism on this that we did not on the other. What else? I think that's about it. So we really have covered, I think, all of the basic necessities for our base checklist, if you will. So you could effectively use this as a base. The only thing I have not put on here, which I probably should, is a projector. So I guess I could figure out how to go ahead and put a projector in here, because that is, after all, something that's going to be pretty important, all things considered. Do I want to embed this? Do I want to do... So I'm inclined to put it about right here. Maybe perhaps on this side of the proverbial line. So let's, gee, there is a projector. Put that there. Now, I talked about projectors a while back. I did a video on it, on kind of how to use them and that sort of thing. So, let me see if I can get close to this guy and we can actually look a little bit. So this is the top. So let me get this oriented how it needs to be. Alright, so the cross is the top. So you can kind of see the in fact, let me go ahead and like we're changing. Okay, so you can see it a little better here. So we have a cross on the top with the hole in the middle. And then if you look on the left side of it, or the portion that's towards the leftmost, you'll see it just has a one vertical line there. So that's the front. So top and front. So depending on where you want the projection to be, this becomes your pitch, roll, and yaw. Okay? So, you know, having this, dare I say, correctly oriented matters a little bit from the perspective of, you know, moving things around and making it where you want. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put it here. I'm going to put stuff around it just cause. So a little more protection. And so for me to do that, I need to go on to this particular window. Frozen 8. Okay, so what has that done? That just effectively put a block of light armor around it. One block of light armor around it. Alright, so projector. So that means I should be able to build most any large ship thing. How do I do a small ship projector? Well, that's a little bit of a challenge. Because to build a small ship, you need a small ship projector. The only way to connect on a small ship projector is either through a connector or some fixed mounted something or other that is a small ship projector. So there are various mechanisms for connecting large ship grids to small ship grids. Some of them use connecting on a small rotor head onto a big rotor. I've seen that used before. I've seen Digi actually has an interconnector, a grid interconnector that's just cool as all get out. I've actually I have a nanite control factory shipyard, and I used it on that one, and it's absolutely cool. It shows up as if it were a connector pair, because everything on the small grid side shows up in a different color, but there's no connectors. So it's really cool. I like the way it works. I have absolutely no idea how he did it, but it's pretty awesome. But it is a mod, so I tend to want to stay away from mods as much as possible when I'm posting something up to the workshop. I like being as close to vanilla as I can be. Alright, so I think we have accomplished most of the goals. The only thing left that we really need to do is about setup. So let's go ahead and go into our only control module here, and see if we can get some things set up. So there's our control station. Kind of jumps back on the view. Alright, so what do we have here? We have the BRS system there in slot 1. This is toolbar 1. And we have spotlights. I think it's appropriate that we would end up with the projector here being toggled on and off. Of course, one of the things you see there. So you see how that one's grayed out just slightly? That means there's a permissions issue. So if you've seen that before on your own builds, that's what that means. So let's go ahead and go into K, which is my control panel. I'm going to do a control A, which will highlight everything. You can see that the owner dropped off, which means I do have some owner conflicts. So yes, escape, which will get me back there, and this is making a liar out of me. Projector. For some reason, it's still looking. There we go. It's still kind of not where I want it to be. The pull-in sorter. We can either turn that on or off. Now, do we need that to be off at any point? I don't really think so. I left slot 9 open specifically for the antenna to turn that on or off. So I think everything is fine here. Now, projectors are kind of an interesting thing. So I'm going to go out to toolbar 8 and specifically set up the projector. And so here's another projector on and off. And then I'm going to start doing configuration for the projector. So what do I want to do? Increase and decrease horizontal. And then increase and decrease vertical. Increase and decrease forward offset. Alright, so what we have here is decrease horizontal, increase, decrease vertical, increase vertical, and decrease forward and increase forward. So why did I put all these on the toolbar here? It makes it a lot easier when you're trying to adjust for a new blueprint. Then you can work easily with getting everything where you need it to go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the projector off. One of the other things that you want to do is turn the BRS off. The reason for that is it will instantly start building. Allow build. Which is actually, I believe, your projector. So we could either toggle that off or toggle the whole thing on or off. But either way, when you put a projection out there, these things are going to start instantly. So basically, you want to make sure that you don't have that turned on when you first do this. Alright, so what I'm doing with this one here is to see... Alright. I can't do that anyway. What I wanted to do is see if I could do a button that will actually say, load this blueprint. But that's not here. Okay, and number 9 toolbar is actually the continuation of the same thing. So we have a decrease pitch, increase pitch, increase, or decrease yaw, increase yaw, and decrease roll, increase roll. Okay, again, why do we put these 12 things out here? Because it makes it a lot easier for you to, you're looking at the projection and you can adjust it to where you want to go. So it just makes it a lot easier when you have buttons you can push that are pre-programmed. Whereas if you're looking directly at the projector, then you have to look at the image, figure out where the projection actually is, go to the nearest control point, select some things, but now you've got this, menu in front of you that you can't really necessarily see very well. So having these 12 buttons easily accessible where you have a full view of what's going on and can make adjustments by the push of a button is much more convenient. Alright, so we have set up our projector, installed our projector. So there's toolbar 9, toolbar 8, and toolbar 1. Everything else, as you can see, is blank. Okay, so toolbar 1. We turn our projector on, we can turn our BRS on, we can turn our Shipyard on and off. Don't know that we really have anything else that we could do short of coupling on to the connectors. Now, do you want to control the connectors here, or should you leave that to the ships? I tend to leave it to the ships. Is it nice to be able to control in the ideal world where you have a computer and a very flexibly programmed machine? Yeah, you could do all of that from a control console if this were, dare I say, real world. But in this case, is there really any point to programming those 9 connectors? And I'm not sure, or actually, what is that, 11 connectors? I'm not sure there is. So I'm not going to do that. Obviously, if you're sitting down at this in your own game and you want them, then by all means, knock yourself out. So I think we are as complete as we can possibly be. I'm going to go ahead and pull myself out of here, go back outside. The only other possibility, and this is kind of one of those, do you really want to do this or not, is putting a console out here somewhere. And I don't know if there is really any advantage to it other than being able to see, you know, everything from a good perspective. So what I think I am going to do, yeah, I should put it right here. Yeah, this is a good view. So what I'm going to do is change this particular block to that. I'm also going to change these two blocks. Okay, I did turn off. Good. Change these two blocks to kind of fit. Alright, I'm having trouble here. Shade. There we go. Alright, and we have to go back in and grab a console. And we have to paste it the correct direction, which is that. Alright, we're going to do a lot of the same things here. Obviously that did not connect me on. Hello. Alright, so this is kind of doing the same thing, which I did not want. It's kind of strange how this, well, luckily I can see the projection a little bit, but I don't like the fact that I can zoom out, but I can't zoom in. More keen camera shenanigans. Alright. So, what did we have here? We had a projector in number 3, which was a toggle on-off. We had an antenna out here, which was a toggle on-off. I did not have the sorter. Control station 2, I'm going to ultimately get rid of. Groups, we had some groups. So this was here, which was toggle block on and off. I'm trying to remember spotlights or floodlights we had here, which was a toggle block on and off. Our reactors would have been here, use conveyor or not. This would have been batteries recharge. And there we go, gas generators also toggling the control system on and off. Alright, so that was all that was on button bar number 1. Then we were in button bar number 8. We did this again, which was an on-off. And then we had a projector on-off over here. And the rest of the projector was the control facets. So decrease, increase, decrease, and then click, increase, decrease, and increase. And then we go to number 9, and it's the same thing with pitch, yaw, and roll. Increase pitch, increase yaw, increase yaw, increase yaw, All right. Okay, so K, we are going to go ahead and look for consoles. Huh. All right, so control station is habitat, and this is the control station. Not sure how we want to call this. Outside. Okay, so now we have, okay, console station. It's not plural. Okay, let's turn that off. I'm not sure exactly where that console is, but we're going to turn it off on the toolbar, and we're going to add it on to miscellaneous. And then we're going to turn terminal off. Alright, what do we have? Then we have a projector. Sorter. I want that on the configuration toolbar. I'm going to go ahead and put that also in miscellaneous systems. Save. And terminal off. Projector really is something that you need to have access to on your control panel. I don't really want to hide that anywhere. The other things are, of course, you have to turn this on and have a blueprint in it to check these. Trying to think of what blueprint. So let me dive off screen for just a second, and I will find. I'm trying to find a non-Kenti block. This may be a little bit of a challenge here. Sorry, I'm doing other stuff off screen as well, so my apologies. So obviously I have videos on YouTube, right? If you're watching this and you're listening to me saying that, then that's probably an obvious statement at this point. So the trick is actually uploading all of these videos as you go. So that's actually what I'm doing in the background is uploading stuff. So the video that I was uploading finished, so it was kind of off to the next video here. Alright, so back to what I was doing. I need to find a semi-vanilla something that I can use. large drill ship. So I'm bringing a whole boatload of stuff in just for fun. If nothing else, we can take them apart. Doing a little blueprint management here. So I saved myself a lot of time yesterday. I can't count the number of times that I've added MMaster's LCD, automatic LCD scripts, and I sit down and reprogram everything every time. And so you take a set of LCDs, the 4 of them, and you're going to be about 10 minutes programming all those. I have a text document that outlines a lot of the different configurations I've used in the past, so I don't have to really reinvent the wheel every time I do it. But it still takes time, so even copying and pasting. So what I did yesterday was I was on my 3rd set of LCDs and was thinking, damn, this is taking so long. And of course you have to be in this particular mindset too. I'm totally OCD, but there's also a point where it's just like, this is not fun anymore. I just want this to be over. So I was in about the 3rd set and was just like, why the hell don't I just create a set of these and paste them on the frickin' bulkhead? And I sat there for like probably 2 minutes trying to figure out, why the hell haven't I done this before? I've been using this thing for, a couple years probably. I still remember when version 1, it wasn't even called version 1 then. It was just LCD, McMaster's automatic LCDs. And then, eventually version 2 came out. So, I don't know. I don't know why I did, so, okay. So I did that. And the last 3, I pasted it into the world, I changed the names so it doesn't conflict with the others, and then pasted it onto the bulkhead, and poof, they're up. And it's like, oh, on to the next one. Change 4 names, boop, done. So the last 3 pastes were just done. And then I actually came back and moved a few. So it was like, hey, this is really easy. This is, a minute and done. So a minute versus 10, yeah, I like that. All right. So coming back in the world here, let us grab something. Actually, scratch that. Let us go to number 8. We're going to turn off the BRS system because when that thing goes live, it's going to go live. All right. Okay. We are going to select the projector blueprints, and then we are going to pick. So we've got a couple different things. So this is a very large drill ship. Um, Large scale, but it is vanilla. We have a heavy freighter here, which is also vanilla. This is really, really old. This is my Concord passenger liner, which is actually the size of my nanite control factory shipyard was built to accommodate this. This is actually too big for this shipyard. It goes through. And a vanilla cargo transport. That's kind of neat, but the array obviously will be too large. This might be fun. Might be too big. So it would either be either this, which is actually kind of cool. I built this, so I was playing through Duck Roll's Escape from Mars. If you have not played Duck Roll's Escape from Mars, you are absolutely missing out. There's probably a lot of people who will agree and maybe a lot of people who will disagree, but I think that particular it was kind of scenario, so it dumped you off and you now had to survive and then get yourself the hell off of Mars. And it was truly, I think, the classic scenario and a good example of what space engineers can be. Absolutely incredible mod world. If you haven't played it, you are missing out. You need to do it. So anyway, I built this kind of as a home base for there on Mars. So as you can see here in the little tiny picture on your screen, it is armed. It has a platform that you can drive things up onto. It's got the refueling. So why not? Let's go ahead and put this into the projector. Unfortunately, trying to see where that is. Alright, so I'm gonna go on to my number 9 and swivel this. Yeah, I think we'll swivel it that way. I'm gonna go up, obviously. So back to the 8. Vertical, I think, was number 7. Oh, nope, that was not. So here's the interesting thing about projections is let me jump out of the chair and actually wander out here. So I could actually lower this down quite a bit, and that wouldn't hurt anything at all. So I need to go 2 backwards because ultimately I want it to connect on to... I could actually have it connect onto one of those, couldn't I? So yeah, let's go over to the edge again, which might really be just setting it at 0. Of course, you know, the downside to this, one, two, okay, so I do want it up 1, and here's why I want it up 1, is you want something that you can saw off, and then, you know, have it available. The question is, because this is an immobile object, is this the ideal, and maybe this really isn't the ideal thing to put in here. So let's just for total shits and giggles, let's look at this miner. it is a monster. It is hydrogen powered. So let's go to number 9. Let's straighten this out. Yep, that's better. Back over to number 8 for Alright, let me jump out of the chair. Really, I just want to see where the... Oh, wow. Okay, that moved it way out of range. So here's what I would really like to do. This is going to sit... What is that? Oh, that's where the cameras are. So ideally would be to sit about right here at this particular block, or we could sit onto this guy. So I'm going to build a dummy block. And what do I mean by a dummy block? So this is a block that ultimately I can grind down. Okay, so we're going to put a blue block right there. And ultimately, I want to sit the projection onto that. So I need to go forward on the projection again. So T. All right. So 7 and 8, right? Alright, so there is, I'm even with the base of the drills, which is what I wanted. Now I just have to look and see, so that's sitting on the spotlight, which I don't want. So let's move that there. So now I'm off the spotlight and I want to come down 1. Okay, so that should be sitting on a drill. Well, let's jump out of the chair and have a look. Okay, so the drill, we are even with the drills, which is exactly what I wanted. And, yep, so we have the spotlight and it's sitting on the drills. So basically, to launch this guy, we could actually go one more over and go to this drill if we wanted to, but it doesn't really matter. The idea is that I don't want the spotlight in this case to be able to connect onto something, and because that does not have a connectable surface, I'm good. The other advantage here is that this projection now has 2 blocks that can be welded immediately. Okay, so this is probably pretty good. It actually does fit in here, which is a nice thing. Now, here's the downside: there are not nearly enough parts in this this thing to be able to add those in. So, All right. So I think what we will do here, K, I want to go ahead and go back into the projector. There's 2 things. There's 2 things I want to do here. Keep projection, show only buildable. Now, keep projection may have a slight performance hit depending on, you know, what kind of horsepower machine you have. The reason why you do this, and it's good and bad, if you do not have these boxes checked, well, the show only buildable is kind of a it doesn't show the whole projection. It only shows the blocks which are currently buildable. So it aids and it doesn't aid. So keeping the whole projection So keep projection after the build is complete, useful for automated building, but can degrade performance. So here's the problem: is that not really applicable here, but there's babble, but if you have a large-scale build and you have a projector with that build in it, in other words, you are creating a self-repairing mechanism on your ships, you have to have keep projection on. And the reason why is that once you have everything perfectly aligned with so the projection is now perfectly aligned with the ship, the projector turns off. It dumps the blueprint and turns itself off. And the only way to fix that is to go back in and do it again, and you'll do that like 4 or 5 times before you realize, okay, this is really, really screwed up. What the hell is going on here? But if you turn on keep projection and show only buildable, then it will actually keep everything. So kind of a neat thing. So using it as a repairing system on your ships is really neat. But it's that frustration of, why can't I make this work? And that's because you have to turn these things on. And you have to turn them on when it's not aligned. Once it goes off, and of course, unfortunately, once it goes off, even if you reload the blueprint, because now it's matched up again, it just goes right back into that off state. So the only way to get around that, once you're in that hole, the only way to dig yourself out is to actually select a different blueprint, at which time you can change all your horizontal offsets and all that sort of thing, get it unaligned, then load the blueprint that you want back in, and then check those boxes, and then realign everything, and it'll be okay after that. So anyway, that was one of the things that I probably did not mention when I was doing the projectors. So anyway, having babbled on at length, and I'm way over time, so I apologize for that. So this is a great place to stop. What I will do off screen is actually do a lot of pirate activity and load a bunch of stuff up and grind it all down. So should be fun stuff. Alright, so this is Ken T. Tiger signing off, and thank you for joining me, and we will see you next time.